maybe the best May the stock market could have ever asked for. In about 19 or 20 years, this has been our best stock market returns for the month of May. So yes, this is pretty cool. I'm just going to go ahead and put in the poll. So join in, say hi, let me know how it's going, and then we can carry on. All right, so let me just go in and try seeing if I can put in some of the tools. So give me a second. Let me go in and put in on the comment and see what's happening there. Oh no, I need to do the poll. All right. Yeah, let's put that in. So we got that in. Let everyone trickle in by then. What should be the, let's say next week. All right, we got a full 5-day trading week, so that's going to be fun as well. Usually last week was just a 4 days trading week, now we're 5, so that's been going well. Drop into the comments and introduce yourselves, please. Just say hi so I know who's here, and I can say hi as well. Okay, so we got some crazy shit that happened during market, post market, a lot of stuff here and there. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna have to do the poll again, but you guys should start getting the notifications in your account pretty soon, and then we can do this. This is our 7:30 p.m. Eastern live that we keep doing on a daily basis. I try doing this almost every day, ends up being every day. Let's see how it goes. Okay. What do you think is going to be the driver next week? That's going to be the poll question. So I'll put that in. Let's see if we can put in another one. So that's also going to come in. So would it be Trump's tariff headlines that basically take over next week, or would it be the 10-year bond yield, right? Or maybe not the 10-year bond yield. Let's look at something else. So the real market driver for next week would be Trump's tariff headlines, or could it be steel tariff headlines? Because the steel one's now gone on to 50%, right? I mean, it was 25%, now he's jumped it up to 50%. So that's saying something. Or bullish through the noise. Yeah, that's one. Let's see that. Let's see which ones you guys choose. So how will you react to the moves next week? Bearish? Okay, let's see. Maybe we can put this in. You guys can join in. Drop into the comments, say hi. Go ahead and like it, subscribe, do all of that. Okay, let me see. Yeah, there you go. That's your poll. It should be on your screen right there. There you go. Go ahead and vote. My bet's going to be, I can't vote on these. I don't know why I can't vote on these, but if I have to give a vote, I'm going to choose, wait, what were the choices? Yeah, I think it's still going to be bullish through the noise, especially because it's just the steel tariffs. If it extends a lot more, obviously, then that's going to be pretty bad, especially when it comes to not just the Trump tariffs, but also something like what happens if you have a a US China trade deal issue, right? That could be something that can affect the markets pretty badly as well, because that trade deal does seem to be tapering off a bit. At this moment, that's how it's looking like it. Apparently, the talks have stalled. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent came out and said that talks have stalled. At this moment, what they will need is a Trump Xi phone call. So I don't know. Maybe that's setting up at this moment. But Trump's got too many things to deal with on all fronts. If you think about it, he's not just dealing with his tariff issue that he's gone on with the 50%. He's not just dealing with the 10-year bond yield. He's not just dealing with now the EU deal that may or may not happen. So there's a China issue that is an issue as well. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you. How are you doing, brother? Hope all is well. And another issue that's currently going on is, so he's got the 10-year bond yield issue. He's got the US-China trade war issue, which talks have stalled. He's got the EU issue where talks are resuming, but he needs to get that done faster as well. He's also got another issue that's coming up now with the courts, whether the Supreme Court and all the other courts are now going to come out and be like, hey, you can't be doing this to that much of an extent. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of things going on in his world at the moment. So it's not really smooth sailing for him. But let's see. Anyway, so this is episode 15. We're going to be talking about the current tariff situation that happened a few hours back, especially if things have changed. And how's that going to affect global markets, right? I mean, we are technically mostly American stock market investors, but we look for value everywhere. So wherever we find value, we will go out and buy. All right. Go ahead and hit the poll if you guys haven't already. What do you think is going to be the real driver next week? Is it going to be Trump's tariff headlines, or are we going to be bullish through the noise? So do that for me. Go ahead and subscribe, and let's carry on with this show. If you have any questions, just drop it in to the chats and we'll go ahead. Anyway, so in the grand scheme of things, this is what's been happening, right? We just got news that Trump has come out and he has said that steel tariffs will double as he announces a blockbuster deal. The blockbuster deal being that US Steel is now going to be merged with Nippon Steel in Japan. And I don't really think it's that much of a big thing when steel tariffs have now been jumped from 25 to 50. They were already at 25, right? That itself was high. Now you're jumping that all the way to 50. I mean, it has its own give and takes, but I don't really think it's going to be a 2% down day on the S&P 500 just because we have a 25 sector specific tariff increase, right? Now, then again, over the weekend, if we do have some talk about a Chinese US trade stalling that has now not been able to repair itself, that would likely make a scenario where we would now start seeing a negative 2-3% and even more, right? We could have a pullback on the S&P 500 for maybe 5-7-8% as well if trade deals with the EU, trade deals with China, trade deals with all other countries start taking a halt. So keep that in mind as well. That's something to look out for, because we're not sure if things are going to get better. What I am certain about is that we're going to be able to live through this noise and carry on. Now, how sure are we that we're going to be able to carry on without having to worry about any impending issues that are currently happening? I am genuinely not sure about that. We have a lot of smaller things that we're currently dealing with, right? Like I said, we have 4 to 5 issues that are currently going on. One of them is the US-China tariff issue. Talks have stalled. Another one is currently the EU-China, EU-America trade deal that's also, he was stalling. He came out and said, I'm going to put a 50%. He walked that back because now they're going to work on that deal. So that seems to be working out in his favor as well. Another one that's currently happening is his court issue, right? What's going to happen with the Supreme Court? What's going to happen with all these courts? Is it going to lead to something where he's not able to put in the tariffs? Is it going to lead to something where he's not able to, uh, let's say, make sure that he's able to go ahead, put these tariffs in to a certain degree where it's only sector specific, or it's related to just particular countries? Because what my belief is, the Supreme Court's not going to come in and allow him to go ahead and put tariffs on all products, put tariffs on everything that's currently going on, and also put tariffs on situations where he just has a blanket ban on countries. Like, okay, if you're dealing with so and so country, this is like, I know for a fact, right? If you're saying that you're going to be dealing with Iran or Venezuela or any of these countries that he's not fond of, it's possible that you will have a blanket tariff, and that's a national security issue. I get that. But if you're going to be saying that aluminum coming out of another country is going to cause a national security issue to America, I'm not sure if the courts are going to agree to that. At the end of the day, the rule of law is more important in America than anything else. And I do believe that all said and done, we are going to reach a scenario where he will be asked to reduce either the quantum or the effects of his tariffs on a larger scale basis. That's my bet. That I don't think the Supreme Court's going to allow him. The Supreme Court's for sure going to allow him to put his tariffs. Maybe not at the rate, the speed, or the intensity with which he thought he could. That's my standpoint. I'm a little apprehensive of the fact that his 50% on steel, his 145% that he was putting on China, and all the other rates that he was working on in all these other countries, right? Saying on Thursday evening, okay, I'm going to be putting a 50% tariff on the whole of EU. That doesn't become a national security issue. And keep in mind, right, he's been coming out and clearly saying that, considering the tariff issue that he's been speaking about, he's also been saying that it's a negotiation, right? If it is truly a negotiation, which I do believe it is, and most people do, which is why the market's higher, how is that a national security issue then? Because if you're negotiating with rates going higher, rates going lower, tariffs being doubled, tripled in situations, reciprocal tariffs, right? I don't think that's a national security issue. If it's just a negotiation, which he's already come out and said. So I do believe the Supreme Court's going to step in next week or the week after that and be like, hey, you know what? You got to chill out on this a bit. Figure out a way where you can put in your sector-based tariffs, but you're not going to be able to go in and put in these tariffs, which are just blanket bans on countries. Like here's 50%, here's 100%, here's 200%. Go ahead and just pay tariffs, right? And I think a lot of these countries, especially China, especially Japan, especially all the other countries that are currently working on a deal, I think what their plan is that if he's not able to win this in court, why should we agree to even a deal today? So, which is why I believe that the talks have stalled. So, the US-China talks stalling, even at the 30%, 20%, is purely a scenario where they're like, you first figure out whether your courts allow you to do what you're doing. Why should we negotiate with someone who does not have the backing of his own courts at this given moment? So that's the reason why they would have pretty much stalled. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if you look 3 months out, 6 months out, it's not really that big of an issue. You are going to continue seeing volatility play its part. So be smart, look for opportunities where you can, look for stocks that are being strong in this kind of a scenario. And then you can figure out if things work that way or no. Yeah, let me see. But do you have legs? Just 2 of them, bro. How many do you have? That'll be great to know. Anyways, so that's something that I'm kind of looking at. I'm not sure if this whole ball game that comes around the Trump tariff 50% on steel is going to affect us largely. For some reason, when you look at crypto today, it is seemingly falling. It is down to about 103,000. We were at 112 a week and a half back. It's maybe not even a week and a half back, maybe a week back. But you know what? We were at 112 making a new high while everything else wasn't there. But that being said, what I can see is that maybe we head back to 100K. Right? Maybe we head back to 100K on Bitcoin. Uh, all the others also, I just look at some of them, Ether, Solana, all of them, they just seem to have like got cracked, right? I'm not sure what happens to the Nasdaq. It's something that I still wonder if there is anything that happens. Let's see. So markets did close pretty badly. At least some stocks. I mean, at the end of the day, the index was fine. The index was pretty much unmoved, about 0.11% down on the Nasdaq, 0.13% up on the Dow. The SPX was pretty flat at 5911. Remember, the market did crash in terms of intraday basis. I'm not saying a crash as in like 10% crash, but you did have an entire flush through downwards. Once trading opened, you basically went all the way from a new high down, back down, all the way down to 58.44 on the index. 58.44 jumps all the way 1.5% up, right? Let me just get this right. So I'm pretty sure that it was more than 1%. Yes, we jumped about 1%, 1.12% on the index, and that happened pretty much in the last 4 hours. So you saw that move coming up, and I do believe this is building some form of a flag. It's building some form of a move where we will consolidate for a bit, maybe head a bit lower, give us a chance to buy, and then boom, all the way past 6,000. 6,000 as a level would be a very important level, because a lot of people would start questioning the fact as to whether we can get to all-time highs. If we're able to close above 6,000 and move a little higher towards 6050, 6100, I think we're on our way to new highs in June. Quite possible. All right, 6,000 is a number in the sand that I'm looking at. If you're able to cross that and close above that for a week, I don't see a reason why you couldn't be at 6,200 within a month or two. My fair guess at this moment is that we're still looking at somewhere around a 6,600, 6,500, and we've been talking about this on the past few lives. 65 to 6,700 on the SPY and the SPX 500, sorry, does look like a scenario that can happen. You might have intra-week volatility or intra-day volatility. You'll see the VIX spike. You'll see some of that nonsense happening. But in the grander scheme of things, I'm not currently looking at anything that's gone crazy. One thing that I do like that's currently been happening is that there is a very good advance decline ratio in terms of the number of stocks heading higher versus the number of stocks heading lower. There's a lot of stocks that are currently heading high. So the market breadth as of yesterday, which was, if you logically think about it, because they came out and said that the Chinese talks have stalled, there was some tariff nonsense happening. Elon's leaving the White House and going. Few things happening here and there, right? It's kind of like something to keep in mind, knowing that there was a decent amount of bad news and the markets were looking for a pullback. Now, the good part is you did get buy-in on that pullback and you still did close pretty much at flat levels, but it was a good price that you closed at. Let's be honest, when these things happen, you're looking at the bigger companies taking share, right? So the Max 7s, them holding their ground. For some reason, we started seeing the entire market breadth improving. So when the entire market breadth does improve, that to some extent is a good sign, right? So when you see those kind of days where market breadth is improving on bad news, you usually are at intermediate bottoms or you're looking at stocks breaking out, right? That's something to keep in mind, because I am not of the opinion at this moment that if we are going to be seeing a larger pullback of 10% or a correction in the market, I don't see it happening at this moment. Not that I can see it happen. It's just not currently within my scope of things that I'm able to currently look and be like, okay, maybe a 10% correction could be coming in. And I could be completely wrong. But from whatever I'm able to see at this moment, I am exceedingly bullish that the market is looking through all of this tariff noise as pure negotiation. We're either going to look at it as to either you come in and put tariffs which are so high that it's going to cause the market to come lower, or we're in a scenario where we wait till July 9th, we see what happens on that day, because we still have a 90-day reprieve for China that goes all the way up to August. So a lot of people are under this misconception that even the China 10% import tariff that China's putting on America and America's putting in a 30% import tariff on China, that is going to come through on July 9th as well. No, that's not. That's going to happen in August. That's not a July story to worry about. So keep that in mind, because you're looking at a scenario where you could have these companies have another quarter of good numbers, and that would just be 2 quarters in, and another 2 quarters, and towards the end of the year you usually start seeing markets heading higher. Now remember, again, towards the end of the year, you're just going to be a year away from midterm elections. And for all of you that have not watched our previous videos or have not watched our previous content, do remember that during midterm elections, the quarter in which the midterm elections happen, as well as the next 2 quarters, they are usually excessively bullish for stock markets. They are by far the best 3 quarters that the markets can ask for. So, should you position yourself today for those? Absolutely. Why should you not? Right? In some situations, you will see better earnings coming in. In some situations, you will see better, I would say, even better tariff news that comes in. Right? I don't truly believe that we will be talking about tariffs a year from now, even 6 months from now. As we get closer towards July, August, September, I think this news is just going to die out, and a lot of people are going to look back and be like, hey, when this was happening, did we just miss out on the biggest rally that we could have had? Did we just have a scenario where we could have had a lot of money that we could have deployed, while realizing that the markets are like, we're about 4% away from an all-time high. The Nasdaq is currently 3% away from its all-time high. The S&P 500 is about 3.99% away from an all-time high. That's 4% away from an all-time high. We had 5% return on the S&P 500 in the month of May. What's stopping us from getting a 4% return in the next month or in the next 2 months? That basically means that within 2 months, you're now going to be seeing the S&P 500 hitting all-time highs. What do you think stocks are going to do? They're going to head higher as well. What do you think risk-on sentiment from everywhere else is going to do? A lot of people that were sitting on cash or sitting on money on the sidelines, sitting in treasuries, are going to pull that money out and then get into the stock market again, because they're going to realize that irrespective of all of this tariff news, markets are still going to head higher. When those kind of things happen, you are going to start seeing a lot more money come in. But if you're going to be buying when everybody else is already buying or currently buying, it's not really a good way to be making money, right? So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and put in all of your questions. Go ahead and make sure you guys vote on that community poll as well. We've already got about 2 votes, but we're 50-50. So there's one person, I'm pretty sure, that says there's bullish through the noise, and one of them that's currently saying that Trump's tariffs headlines would cause some form of a market driver next week. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure if I do think that China will have a call between the US and G, but I think that would happen post the Supreme Court hearing as to what the tariff scenario is, because they would also be waiting on the sidelines thinking maybe it's better to go ahead and make some form of a tariff deal only post your Supreme Court is able to even decide what is it that's currently going to happen, right? So a lot of them are just going to be waiting it out and seeing what's currently happening. So we do this every day at about 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I try not doing it on a Sunday. Just give myself some time, but let's see. If we're able to do it, we'll pull through and keep doing it every day as well. We do it on every working day as well, on a Saturday as well. Easy for us to catch up on that. If there is some news over the weekend, we will do a live again. With the current administration, news is not really that much of a, we're not lacking in news for sure. That much I can guarantee. So we're going to have something that creeps up, something that happens. So Go ahead, put in some of your queries, some of your questions. What stocks are you guys looking at? What's currently happening? I'm just going to go through some of the news that's happened. And let's see if something else is also going on. So Elon's leaving the White House or whatever is currently happening between them. I don't know why on that live video that I did see, he had some form of something on his eye. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's okay. It's just, he's human like us, so that's fine. Summer rentals in the Hamptons are down 30%. So what you're basically looking at is people spending less money renting out massive mansions. I don't know if that's a slowing consumer or that's just the rich saying, okay, maybe not this time. Yeah, so he's doubled up the tariff on steel up to 50%. It was at 25% for all imports. Japan was the big one. Japan's Nippon Steel and now US Steel together have come together and merged. So yeah, that's just something that we're still looking at, right? So S&P performance as of now, this has pretty much been the best May for stocks in 35 years. Usually we have this stock market adage that goes on saying sell in May and go away, right? That didn't work out this year. You had a 6.2% rally for 2025. You had a similar 4.5% rally in 2024. The last time you saw the market go above 6.2% in a given year in the month of May was 1990. That was a 9.2% return. What I'm saying is, all the way from 1990 to 2025, this is when you had the best May. So guys, it's for everyone that keeps thinking that, oh, the recession's coming, the bear market's coming. I don't know who's seeing it. I'm not sure. I still think we'll have a good this year as well as a good next year. I might be the most bullish on the street trying to tell you guys that I think we're going to be seeing 65, 6,600 and then maybe even 7,000 next year. So 7,000 is my number for 50, maybe 31st December 2026. I think we should see a 7 handle on the S&P 500 somewhere during 2026. Right? What do you guys think about it? Put in the comments. Do you think we're going to be hitting new all-time highs this year? I mean, a lot of people still don't think so, right? But I'm still of the opinion that it is going to happen. Oh, Kevin says, hello. Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you. Great that you joined in. Been a crazy day. More like not on the markets front in terms of stock market news that's happened, but especially with all of this new tariff nonsense that's currently going on. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, so bullish through the noise is currently winning in the poll, right? I mean, that's something that I'm also pretty certain about. I think people are going to make too much out of this steel tariffs being doubled. But you know what? I think the market's smarter than a lot of more people put together combined as well, because they're just going to look through this and be like, yeah, okay, it's negotiation. Let's just carry on. Let's move on. There's more to this than everything else, right? Kevin says the Bulls will win and continue to show that through all this crazy noise. That's absolutely right, man. I've been saying that like for the past 20 minutes. I'm trying to harp on the same point that as much as I sit and think about it, it's pretty unlikely for me to go in and even be bearish at this moment. It's just unlike a scenario where I'm like, you know, in April, right? I mean, I'll give you some anecdotal data, some data that basically was how I looked at things. Somewhere around March, when I started thinking that, and I don't have any news on my end, right? And so hold a second. Let me just say hi to Jason. Jason's a regular here. Jason's pretty much my bro. Jason, going pretty well. I'm having my cold brew this morning. How's it going with you guys there as well? Just drop in. So let me just get back to the story also. In March, in the end of March, I started reducing my position sizing and kept going lower because I was like, I never knew that it would get bad. But what I did know was he had a point to prove. Sometimes all you need in stock markets is not numbers and a bit of psychology, a bit of understanding the man behind the game that's playing us. And remember, the stock markets react to uncertainty and certainty. News creates the uncertainty or the certainty. So remember that. It is not a game as to how is it that pretty much I'm not able to understand this whole story where a lot of people have started becoming so bearish just because they saw that fall in April, right? It's part of life. It's how stock markets react. Learn to grow a pair and react. And if you're so worried about the stock markets collapsing, maybe you had too much risk on the table, right? So yes, in May I sold out a large part of the portfolio. Somewhere around April 2nd, when those rates came in and I started seeing those things lower out in terms of prices, I was like, okay, let's see what's happening here. I'm not really sure. Can these rates even sustain? And then when we started seeing China come in and say, okay, we're going to do a 25. Okay, they're like, oh, now if you put 25, I'm going to put 50, 75, 100, whatever. Went on to numbers where I realized that 145% and 125%, I don't even think we were going to have anything coming in from China, anything going out from America, or vice versa. It was a complete scam type scenario where we were just like, dude, either we're living in simulations where we're all believing this fact that now we're going to be paying 150% for everything in America, or we're living in a scenario where all of this is just noise, which is what it was, which is why eventually at that moment is when we also started thinking, let's create something, let's create a YouTube channel, let's make people start believing, since everybody is looking at this from a wrong perspective, let's give them a perspective where, or let's give them, maybe not wrong is a harsh word for me to use, maybe give our perspective and let's see how that happens, right? Anyways, so we started buying in somewhere around April. We started buying in April end. We're still buying in May. I'm 100% invested. I am 99% of the time 100% invested. So you will find me as a perennial bull at all times. I do have volatility options that I buy at times when I do believe that volatility is low. Like at the moment, it's at 18, right? So it's something for me to keep in mind at all points of time, right? Let me just get over with some questions. Jason, nice to see you in, bro. Kevin has joined our daily chat team. I have seen that. Kevin and Jason, thanks to you guys, man. Oh, we're going for it, man. I'm not stopping till we don't have at least 10,000. We're going for it. We're not stopping. I'm not giving up, and I never want to as well. Let me get to the question from Kevin. I have a stock question. Since you're in Asia, what's your take on Grab? I have some, and I'm feeling something good coming. That's true, bro. So I have looked at Grab, and I've been looking at it since the $4, $5 level as well. Grab is something technically that I like as well. So I'll give you a brief on how I did find out about Grab, right? I was looking at a company in South Korea and I did own it called Coupang. And eventually when I was in Southeast Asia, I started realizing that how all these countries put together, Grab is the thing to go to, right? It's like the WeChat of China. You basically can do everything on it. And then I also realized that within Southeast Asia, each country had its own, let's say, local operator as well, which was pretty good as well. Like, I know in Thailand you have Shopee, in Indonesia you have Shopee as well, in Indonesia you have Gojek as well. So there were a few of these. Now it's been languishing in this $3.50 to $5 range, playing around there for, I don't know, all the way since 2024 end. I do remember seeing it at about $3. It went to about 5. The options, I was looking at 2-year out options and they look pretty cheap as well. The thing was, I was never able to find a catalyst which I could see making a $5 stock a $15 stock. I do remember, let me just get the chart open here. They were at $18 at one point of time. You know, that was the whole 2021 IPO craze that happened, and it looked pretty, like, I don't know if that valuations is justified. Is a $4 87 valuation justified? Absolutely not. Can it be a $10 stock? Sure. Can I find better plays that can go from a better plays in terms of conviction for companies that can grow? I think so. Can Grab pull too many levers to grow its margins, to grow its profitability, unlike its competitors? I don't see that happening. So I've stayed away from Grab. Would I take a position maybe at $4 or $5 if the option gets too cheap, like it's a dollar valued option? I'll buy it. But as a long-term holding, for me, I look at it from a opportunity cost perspective. Is it better for me to shift from one stock to the other stock because I have more confidence in that? Like I say, right, even if I have a 75% confidence in a stock going up, doubling, versus a 50% confidence in a stock going up, let's say 1.5 times, I would choose the double because my confidence is a lot more on that. It just gives me better sleep at night. But that being said, right, Grab's been run by Anthony Tan. Anthony Tan's if for a lot of people that don't know about it, Anthony Tan comes from an exceedingly rich family, exceedingly wealthy family. And when I was watching his interviews, when I was researching about the stock, one of the things that came to my head is when he was, I think, at Stanford or Harvard, one of the Ivy Leagues, and started with this idea of a delivery company called Grab, and he went to his dad to ask for money. His dad stopped talking to him after that purely because of the whole scenario, saying, oh, we have this kind of wealth, we have this kind of a business, who's going to run it? And now you want to go and run a taxi ride-hailing service, deliver food for people. And you know what, till today they don't speak, and hopefully that changes, right? I mean, touch wood, that changes for the betterment of Anthony and everyone else. But that is resilience, right? That is grit. To keep going on that, even though your parents are against you on that. That is what made me believe that maybe Grab's a great opportunity. Maybe the guy has so much skin in the game, literally, not just in terms of money, skin in the game, literally, that he could convert it into something magical. So can Grab be let me just get over what their market cap is. A $20 billion market cap. Can it be a $100 billion market cap in the years or a decade to come? Absolutely. Because I'll tell you one thing, right? What I see in Thailand, what I see in Indonesia, what I see in Malaysia is, at this moment, there is a lot of money that these countries are pouring in. The rich are getting richer. Standard of livings are improving. A lot of people within Asia do not want to go to Europe and America to travel. Now they want to go around Asia. And I'm seeing these things happen, right? So I'm seeing a larger per capita income within the Southeast Asian countries, within Asia as well. So that's actually very bullish for Grab. If they're able to do this Grab Gojek deal, which was, for some reason, they were saying they're valuing it at 7 billion. Now, 7 billion is huge. I'm not sure if that's paying too much, but let's see. Another thing to just keep in mind is, I've not seen this, so you might have to go in and check this, but if Grab is going to do a merger with Gojek at a $7 billion valuation, how badly do the equity investors get diluted, right? Because they don't have 7 billion in cash. So it would be stupid for them to pay in cash. Even if they do part equity, part cash, at some point of time, they still need to keep some form of financial metric at not diluting the equity shareholders so much that, it, as a company, as a founder, it's great, but at the end of the day, we're equity shareholders, right? We don't want to get diluted so badly just because we're buying a rival at 2-3 times their market value and gaining market share, but not to be diluted by, let's say, a 15-20%. So that's something to just keep in mind, right? Otherwise, Anthony Tan, Grab, fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Small storyline here just to end it, and I'll go ahead to the next questions. And is that at the moment, the way I'm thinking of it, I'm looking at, if I wanted to invest in Grab myself, would I invest in Grab myself, or would I want to put that money into something like the Trade Desk or something like a New Bank or a firm, even Reddit, right? I might choose some of those and not Grab. But if it's a small part of your portfolio and you're playing a very long game, Kevin, go for it, right? I usually have very concentrated bets, so that's my That's my downside and upside. Downside from the past perspective, if a company doesn't do too well as what I expected to do, it takes a hit on my portfolio. If it does well, then I make big gains, right? That's what happens. Thanks for that question, Kevin. Jason, what's up, bro? No doubt market is bullish in general. It'll indeed see all-time highs. I believe bearishness is only there since there are so many gaps down there, which everyone, including me, are hoping to be filled before rip. That's, I think, what we spoke about the other day as well, right? That those gaps are a bit scary. But I mean, you know what? Gaps can remain unfilled for far too long, right? And I think if a lot of us start expecting those gaps to be filled, they won't get filled and they'll just rally. And we'll see 7,000 coming through. So that'll just be something to watch and see. I think if your time horizon's a bit longer, I think if you're looking 6 months, a year, 2 years out, and I do believe that post midterm elections or even around midterm elections, we will head to exceedingly higher prices. 7 handle for me on 31st December 2026. That's my number, right? I think we're getting there. Now, you know what? We have some crazy men in this world at this moment. So if we're back to 100% tariffs or any of those kind of things, all bets are off, right? Then we go in risk adjustment mode. But at the moment, we celebrate what we have. So at the moment, we're just 4% away. So it's happy to see that pricing out there, right? Kevin's in Rhode Island, a beautiful place, man. How's the weather there, though? It should be nice at this moment. I was in New York June of last year. I think somewhere around August this year, I should be coming down to America. July, I should be in Singapore. So it'll be fun, though. That should be August should be decent weather as well. So that's the reason why I'm coming there. I was supposed to be in the Middle East this time around, but it's just too hot, man. It's just burning there. I saw the current news of about 51.9 degrees Celsius, and I said, nah, that's not for my ass. 51.9 is too much. Hey, great to see you, big boss. Nice to see you, man. In Netherlands, yeah. What a beautiful place again. That's still on my list, right? I still need to make a trip there. That's just going to be fun. Kevin says, I love that he's a founder. That's the case so much about the company. That's true, man. That's true. Like another company which a lot of people genuinely think about, where it's so richly valued, is a company like Shopify. But the guy that runs it, man, Toby and Harley, right? The more I look at that, I'm like, no PE ratio can bring that excitement for me into the way those founders are just lethal at the way they run the company. They're out there taking Salesforce's case. They're out there fighting in some form of a market share gaining environment where even at those rates, they're able to continue growing in plus 20%. They're just growing and growing and growing. Here's the thing. Shopify is converting itself from a mom and pop shop scenario website type game to larger B2B games, right? So you have a lot of those big companies. I think one of the Louis Vuitton companies also has Shopify now onboarded. The thing is, what I've realized is when people like us shop and when people in general shop, when you have that one-click approach to going to your payment page and looking at it, and you see that Shopify type prototype of a payment page, and you see Shop Pay and all of that, it just creates some form of authenticity. You know you're not going to get scammed into doing that. And usually people step back from payment pages is when they realize that maybe something's off here. When you see that same type of a payment, like when you go to Lululemon in terms of shopping some things, when you go to Alo, when you go to any of these places and you go and shop, you get the same kind of a payment landing page eventually, where you put in the details, it's already there, all of that. Those kind of things create a moat for a company, right? And Shopify is creating that moat around it, around Shop Pay and all of that. So that's something that I look at. I mean, for me, founders matter more than everyone. That's one of the reasons why I invested in a firm as well, right? I mean, if I had a gun to my head and I had to make one choice of a founder for a buy now, pay later company where you could literally be never paid back in scenarios where people misuse you, who would be the one guy or a set of guys that I would believe could be the best, who could manage fraud, who could build credit standards in order to make sure that the person who's taking up a loan from me for buy now pay later is worthwhile and will pay me back, is for sure some of the PayPal guys, right? And the guy that created the code for PayPal, the guy that wrote the entire credit reporting standards for PayPal, made sure the entire fraud systems on PayPal were rock solid, was a guy called Max Levchin. You don't find a more nerdy looking guy than Max, but at the end of the day, Max runs a shop called Affirm, which is just absolutely outstanding, right? A lot of people today shared this news last week with me saying Klarna, as a company, the buy now pay later giant apparently in Europe, is going to eat Affirm's cake. But here's what happened, right? Financial Times reported they're still a private company and were thinking of going public, and I think that's going to get delayed because their losses have increased. They've had restructuring costs, they've had all of these costs. Klarna CEO pretty much came out and said he's embracing AI such that he doesn't need employees anymore, and they've been reducing employees by 50% and all of that. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, great. I mean, you're using AI, open AI, all of that. I get it. But the godfather of payments for me will always be the PayPal mafia. Because what they did within the payment industry, no one was able to replicate that for you to be able to send money via email. Literally, that's what happened, right? And to create those fraud standards, create all of that bandwagon that they were able to create to grow PayPal into what it became eventually to be sold to eBay. Max Levchin, for that matter of fact, just created something unimaginable when it came to Affirm, in my eyes. Now, when you're looking at a stock that was trading at $176 on Affirm, came all the way down to $8 in the crash of 2022. Today trades at about $51. So you're looking at a 5x return that you got from the lows, but the stock is still way off, right? At the moment, I think you can still get a 240% return on Affirm if it goes back to its previous high. Now, I'm not sure if that high comes in a year. I truly don't care if it comes in a year or in 5 years. Because for me, if I have a founder, and this is what I'm coming to, which Kevin is what I was talking with, is that if you have a great founder, they will find a way to lead the company in the worst of times and propel it to higher stock prices in the best of times as well. Now, you might have bouts where prices can collapse, like Kevin says, right? Another founder that's killing it is Vlad for Robinhood. Absolutely. And when they were a single dollar stock, I think those guys were below $10 at some point of time, because I do remember seeing them in the 2022, 2023 fall, and they had gone down below 10. Yeah, $6.81, and they were languishing there. And I was like, the amount of people, like I remember family members of mine based in the US right now, used to buy it through Robinhood, and it used to be so simple for them to buy. It just started creating this moat where it just made them simpler and easier for them to keep coming back to the same place and doing the same thing again and again. And that's the moat that gets created. And these guys are killing it. They have a desktop version coming out pretty soon for the EU. I think it's already there for America. I'm not sure if it's there already. But like Buffett and Munger say, right? You create low-cost products. If you're the lowest cost producer, there's no reason that demand won't come to you. And that's one of the ways that you look at when it comes to Robinhood, right? Oh yeah, perfect. So the desktop's already there, right? I use Interactive Broker, so that's why for me it's a lot different. Some of these companies, like this is another thing. I don't think I've told you guys this, but look at this when you guys get time. If you really are worried about a market pullback ever happening, draw the S&P 500 and compare it with a stock like the CBOE, the Chicago Board of Exchange, right? Let me actually open it up. So the CBOE has been growing very well, right? At the end of the day, it's the exchange. So what happens is, even in bad times, people sell their stocks, volatility comes up, and when volatility increases, people trade more options, or people step back, people sell, people buy. Whatever they do, they need to do it through CBOE, through ICE, through any of these exchanges. You will see that they have an inverse correlation. So if you ever want to protect your portfolio, but you still want to be in stocks and in companies that are well run, maybe look at the Chicago Board of Exchange, CBOE. A lot of people are not able to think of this way, right? So this is sometimes why I go live and start giving some thoughts that I get when it crosses my head, is that the Chicago Board of Exchange stock does very well even on falls that the market seems to be having, right? So let's go ahead and look at something that happened in April, right? Somewhere around April, you started seeing the market falling. The Chicago Board of Exchange also fell because you're eventually, I mean, see, there was a risk to capitalism at that point of time, which is what everybody believed in, which is why a $235 stock came all the way down to 205. That's about a 10-12% drop. That's not actually too much. You had the index dropping at least 19% from its highs, right? You had a $200 stock go back to its $230 price. So to some stage, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you should go in and buy it from an investment point of view. I'm saying if you really want to trade and you're not in for options or any of that, and you are getting a bit bearish on stocks, maybe go ahead and buy some of these exchange stocks, right? I know IBKR, I mean, Robinhood's been just banging it out of the park for sure. Robinhood reminds me of like Palantir with the way they've been running up. I mean, maybe Palantir's doubled in returns from like a $5 or $10 Palantir all the way up to 120, right? And this is a question that I wanted to ask everyone also, but I'm going to come to that, and give me a second. So IBKR as well, right? At the end of the day, you are going to see people buy stocks. I mean, it's like a lion tasting blood. You're just going to come and want it again and again and again. So here's the story, right? Palantir is about a $300 billion company. OpenAI is at about a $300 billion valuation. What would you guys choose if you had to make a choice? Again, gun to your head. You could only buy one of them, and you could have only one stock in your portfolio, right? You could either buy Palantir worth 300 billion, but you got to hold the stock for 10 years, right? This is not a 6-month play. So 10-year position, would you buy Palantir 10 years out? Or would you buy OpenAI and hold it for 10 years out? The fascinating part with that question is that a lot of people can answer both and be right. Not just from what we will be at 10 years out, but if you logically think about it. OpenAI has a bunch of competitors. A lot of people today spend a lot of time thinking, is Gemini better than OpenAI? Is OpenAI better than Claude? Is Claude better than someone else? It's just become fun for me to start realizing as to, people have started thinking in terms of, is this language, this LLM better, or is that LLM better? And a lot of people that are thinking about that don't even have questions that are that important to ask ChatGPT or any of the other companies. I use ChatGPT because it's just the first thing that I found and I started using it, so I stick to it. While on the other side, will AI have growth and all of that? Absolutely. So OpenAI can become maybe the world's largest company, maybe a $5 trillion company. Who knows, right? That could be 10 years from now. No reason why it couldn't. With John Ivey coming in, them building wearable devices or anything related to hardware, if they're able to crack it, it's game over, right? For a lot of hardware-based companies. Maybe Apple market share could be taken away to a certain extent. Obviously not completely, but to a certain extent. Who knows, right? Look at Palantir. Brilliant founder, right, Kevin? Absolutely. Karp is just, I mean, he looks, even in his earnings calls, I feel like he's got like ballistic missiles on his arms, which can just like fire because he's that charged up at all points of time. Pretty much no competitor in their field, right? Absolutely no one that can come close to what Alex Karp does or Palantir does, to that matter of fact. And with the way the world's going, countries are going to spend more on defense, countries are going to spend more, and that's just the thing that keeps happening. There's no two ways about it. So no competitors, $300 billion valuation. I don't know of a single stock that is more richly valued than Palantir, and possibly for a reason, right? The reasons that we're stating. OpenAI, $300 billion valuation, maybe 10 years from now could be a $5 trillion valuation, $10 trillion valuation, because if they're able to crack the code on that, it's gangbusters for OpenAI, right? It's open season for what happens to OpenAI. So what would you choose? Now, this kind of a situation puts me into a flux as well, where I'm like, Palantir is great, right? But if I have 10 years as an outlook, do I believe that Sam Altman, with all of the UAE stuff, with all of the Middle Eastern stuff, with all of this SoftBank stuff, how much will they grow and how much will they keep on continuously putting out the AI inferences, putting out? Can there be a moment where OpenAI is not able to be at its best, right? At least from a marketing angle or from a wearable device angle. Because what I did realize is that Sam Altman joining hands with John Ivey is basically coming out and saying that, hey, listen, we can't just keep going on this platform of answering people's questions, because at some point of time people will stop asking me questions, or people will find a separate place to get their questions. I need to get into hardware, right? That's some form of a scenario as well. But with AI becoming a larger part of this world, maybe OpenAI would give me better sleep at night from a 10-year perspective, because of me just seeing consumers around me using it on a daily basis, whereas Palantir can't be seen, right? It's like a Palantir versus Meta type scenario, where I don't see people use Palantir, but at the back end, governments, defense companies, the DoD back home also pretty much uses Palantir. So, and they are going to continue using it. There is no other alternative. So that's my question that I ask a lot of people, trying to figure out how their mindset thinks towards investing. If you ever want to know how people think about investing and what their outlook is, I would say the best question to ask is not whether they're long-term, short-term, do they buy growth or value or all of that. I mean, there is no growth in a company if you're not able to buy it at a valuation which makes you money, right? You can have 50% growth, but if you're buying it at 200 times price to earnings, you're betting on the fact that you're playing musical chairs with others. Hopefully someone's able to buy the stock off you at a better price. So Palantir versus OpenAI is a great question to ask people to try understanding what their outlook is. What is it that, are they a valuation based investor at some point of frame, or are they just an investor that's looking to find the next company that could become the world's most valuable company? Keep that in mind though, because you never know what happens, right? I mean, in all seriousness, it is a great question to ask, and you will never know the right answer, especially because they're so diverse in terms of business, as well as being run by incredible people, like absolutely goats of their generations. In all seriousness, maybe Sam Altman could be the goat when it comes to AI, because if not for him, I don't know how many of us would be having AI to that much of an extent, or at least knowing about it. All right. Just something that I keep asking, just to see what's currently going on with a lot of people when it comes to investing mindset, right? Like a lot of people currently talk about, oh my God, AI is going to replace jobs and all of that. I keep telling them that look at something like a Klarna, right? They threw out 50% of their workforce. If you go out and just type Klarna jobs right now, if you typed it a month back, you would see the amount of layoffs that were currently happening, how proud they were about AI doing the job of all those units. And now they're like, oh no, we're going back to hiring people because we need people to continue hiring. So it's funny at some point of time. I do believe that as all of us as humans start using AI more and more, our jobs will involve some amount of AI. So why would it take away our job? Yes, fair enough. Now, if you're if you're making thumbnails, or you're making titles, or you're making copywriting, some form of design or something, you're pretty much at threat, right? Let me be honest. You might as well learn how to use the AI that is currently taking your job away from you and sell yourself as a service then, because then that would be a smarter way of doing it. rather than just go against AI and be like, no, it's not authentic, it's not all of this. Because at the end of the day, if I can get a picture and image done within 5 seconds, I don't really care about it. Whether it's a human behind it or an AI behind it, I want it to be done at the cheapest cost and the fastest speed. Plain and simple, right? Let me just see if there's anything else that's been currently happening. Trump says US steel will be controlled by USA. Trump says steel tariffs go into effect next week. Great. Phenomenal. PDS sues Trump administration over plan to pull funding. I have genuinely lost count of who's suing whom and what all is happening. All I currently care about is what is going to happen with the Supreme Court and these trade scenarios. My bet, they're going to come out and tell him you can do what you want. Just don't go put out blanket tariff bans on countries. You can do it sector specific. Now you can do 100 sector specific tariffs and do what you want with it. They're going to want to be on a fine line where they're also supportive of the people that they're currently being voted into power by and supportive of the president as well. So it's kind of like a diplomatic win for all of them. That's my view. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's my view. Currently, I don't see it as a reason as to why anyone should be worried about. For me, it's still exceedingly bullish. Let me be honest, right? I think this tariff noise is just becoming a bit too much. And the first time when you're slapped in the face, it is going to hurt you. The second and third time, you're getting used to it. That's what's happening with tariffs, right? We're getting from 100, 150% tariffs to now being like, oh, 25 is becoming 50. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it sticks. Who knows? We'll have something new to talk about, right? And life moves on. That's exactly what's happening. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really think that's too much to worry about, especially because I would have been a little more concerned if he was like, okay, now this US steel, aluminum tariffs, all of that is, everything's going to get doubled. A lot of things are going to get doubled. Then yeah, fair enough. If this is just steel happening and he wants to keep his people happy within the steel stuff, great, man, cool, part of the game. It's okay. And the news, right? I started getting like 6 goddamn messages from all news channels, everything, Bloomberg, CNBC, WSJ, everybody, double tariffs. I'm like, it's just on steel, guys. Relax, chill, spend your weekend nicely, enjoy yourself, right? Maybe on Monday it's all chickened out. Who knows, right? Or maybe it's not. We'll deal with it on Monday. We'll see what happens. What I've realized in the current administration and in markets in general is don't lose your Saturday, Sunday based on what happened on Friday. And don't lose your sleep on Monday thinking that Monday is just going to be the way all of your week is going to turn out to be. So just relax, think it through. All right. You're just going to make money if you just take a step back and chill. All right. David Rosenberg, right? I think he's been calling the end of the stock market for quite a while as well. He's been bearish and he finds some reasons, right? Let me just go over his tweet because this is kind of funny though. It's too long a tweet, so I'm not going to go over all of it. But nobody can go into the weekend short the market because nobody knows if we wake up tomorrow to a Truth Social comment that Xi Jinping picked up the phone. Okay, I mean, you know what? Someday that call is going to happen. But we don't need to be positioned for a call to happen. We just need to be positioned into good companies that we know is continuing to grow, right? That's about it. It's eventually going to work itself out. You know what's fascinating is this time of this live stream, right? Maybe the only live stream that I have with 6 votes where 3 are on Trump tariffs headline and 3 are on bullish throughout the noise. So I think everyone's a bit on the fence at this moment, which is kind of, it's good to know, all right? It's good that everybody is not going on to one side saying, oh, we're all bullish, and everyone's on this side saying, oh, we're not that bullish. It's kind of better this way. Let's see what else is happening. You guys have anything else to talk about? Just put it into the comments. I mean, we'll talk about it. I don't really think the market was that interesting other than the fact that we fell and then recovered. And usually towards the end of the month, if you go out and see it for the past few months, towards the end of the month, we have been seeing rallies, right? You have 401k money that comes in. A lot of things happen, which basically causes the markets at the end of the day to, end of the month, to start picking up a bit more than normal. I don't see anything that was so crazy. One good thing was that the market breadth started improving massively. You starting to see the Max 7s not perform that well on Friday, but you did see breadth improve massively, which was good, right? Keep in mind that at the end of the day, it's the breadth that eventually, right? It's the breadth that started deteriorating in January and February while markets were still holding up. And then eventually we had a pop. So think of it in the reverse way. If you start seeing the breadth improving, you are going to start seeing markets improve as well. Eventually, stock prices will head higher. So that's cool. What plans for the weekend, guys? What are you guys going to be doing on the weekend? You guys heading anywhere? I think I'm just going to go to the beach. That's my plan for the week. I have a book to read and I have a few earnings calls to go through. I really want to study this company. I mean, I had invested in this company. I took my money out and then I've seen the price fall. It's a company called Celsius. They make energy drinks. They bought out a company called Alani and pretty hefty price. They're backed by Pepsi as well. One of the articles I saw on WSJ was how they are now, they've got this new marketing campaign which is not just sticking to fitness people but also to non-fitness people. I think they had like a firefighter and a nurse in the whole marketing brief that they had, and that's pretty much leading to maybe and possibly new customer base. Stocks trading at about 35. I remember seeing it on Thursday at about 35. Let me actually go check what it's at. Yeah, 37. Sorry, 37.88. So we've had a pretty good week. I mean, up about 5% for the week. Used to be $100 stock. Today trades at 37. Could it go back to its 100? Possibly. I don't see a reason why it couldn't. Just a $10 billion company. It's a pretty hefty price to earnings, but keep in mind, if they're able to eat into bit by bit amount of market share of Monster, Red Bull, they're going to be able to grow this eventually to becoming a larger company, right? Red Bull, Monster, they have Pepsi's backing, so I don't think money is going to be an issue. Maybe they just get bought out by Pepsi, you know? That could be fun as well. Hundreds of layoffs have been hitting Silicon Valley. Hundreds? Really? I don't know why people make such a big thing out of these job layoffs and all of that, but I still do think we might close the year in double-digit positive. We're still not in the positive for the S&P. We're down 4%. I have a feeling we'll be plus 10% by the end of the year. My bet. All right. And I'm positioned my portfolio that way. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm saying my portfolio is positioned in a way that we would necessarily see, if we do see a positive 10% for the index, that means from a negative 5, we're going to go to a positive 10. That would be pretty good for stocks, right? We will be at 6,600, 6,700 on the index. So that would be a pretty good move all the way up till my numbers being somewhere around 7,000 to 7,200 for 2026 end. So that would be fun. The S&P 500 just had its best May since 1990. So this has been happening. I think I'm going to be doing a live again Sunday evening. So I think by then we should have like some news that comes in. The Sunday evening should be fun because Sunday evening usually we'll have something that's gone on with Trump and something that's happened. If not anything, we will talk about a particular stock. I have a few stocks in mind. I'll just give you guys a breakdown of that on Sunday evening. So that'll be fun for us to get back and do all of those things together as well. So S&P 500 records strongest May performance since 1990. NASDAQ registers biggest May percentage gain since 1997. Going back all the way to the 1990s. Right. How many of us in April would have even thought that May would be one of the best months in like 25 to 30 years, right? Which is why I say don't go all this way trying to figure out, are we going to go higher, are we going to go lower? Position yourself with what gives you sleep at night in a way where you're not too levered. And take some form of risk, because at the end of the day, that's why you're in the markets, right? Don't just go out and buy the goddamn index, which to some extent which is worth it. But for anyone that doesn't understand this, most of you guys that are already on this live, have been on this live, and even talk to me, are pretty savvy investors, right? Let me be honest. I'm not trying to, say something nice, but are pretty savvy investors, because you're up to date with most of the news, especially while we're talking as well. And we speak about companies as well. So it's not like you're new to this whole game and you're like, oh, let me just go buy Vanguard's S&P 500 and sit on it. That's not really the plan. All right. So it should be fun. Let's see what happens. Anyways, if you guys have any more questions, go ahead. I don't want to be taking too much time of yours on a Friday evening, so you guys can go chill with family as well. All right, we'll connect maybe on Sunday. We still had this on for like an hour and 10 minutes. Let me just go ahead and try